let's revise quickly. Yesterday we did what eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells are. So a eukaryotic cell looks more like this. It's a generalized structure which has a lot of cell organelles which are properly distinguished. You will also see that in a eukaryotic cell there's a nucleus which is membrane bound, and you see proper parts like the nuclear membrane, the nucleolus, and so on. Whereas in a prokaryotic cell, all these structures are missing. You will see a few ribosomes, and there's a very distinct cell wall and capsule in a bacteria especially. Okay, and you will see that the DNA or genetic material is in the form of just strands in the floating in the cytoplasm. They are not properly enclosed in a nucleus. So this is what I was saying. It's a single celled organism, no nucleus and no membrane bound organelles. Whereas the eukaryotic cells, there are we will be studying more in detail about plant and animal cells. So this is a generalized structure of a plant cell, whereas this is of an animal cell, more geometrical, and this is a little circular or roundish oval. Okay, and the animal cells are more flexible, plant cells are less flexible. They have a cell wall which is additional along with the cell membrane. You will also see in a plant cell there's a distinct vacuole. You can see the arrow here that I'm pointing at, this.
Yes.
Okay, whereas in animal cells the cell vacuoles are more in number, they are temporary, and they are scattered. In plant cells the vacuole is large, distinct, and permanent. All right, now let's begin with the cell membrane. It is the outermost covering of the cell which separates the contents of the cell from its external environment, and this is known as the cell membrane. You can see the structure, how it looks. It is selectively permeable. The meaning of the word selectively is that it allows certain substances to pass through it, whereas it does not allow certain substances. So it is selecting which substances it will allow to pass through and which it won't. That is why it is called as selectively permeable. The cell membrane holds the cell together and it allows nutrients into the cell. So this is why it is called as selectively permeable. It is made up of proteins and it is made up of lipids. Okay, it's made up of a bilayer of lipoprotein. Then let's see the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the fluid or matrix content inside the plasma membrane of a cell along with the cell organelles. Okay, so this is the cytoplasm. Now the cytoplasm along with the nucleus, which has the nucleus has the nucleoplasm, just like the cytoplasm is within the boundaries of the cell membrane, the fluid within the boundaries of the cell membrane. Similarly, within the boundaries of the nucleoplasm, sorry, with the boundaries of the nuclear membrane, you have the nucleoplasm. So you have cytoplasm and you have nucleoplasm, and both together, that is the cytoplasm along with the nucleoplasm, make the protoplasm. So you know what the protoplasm is? The cytoplasm plus the nucleoplasm. Now this is how the mitochondria looks like. It is a cell organelle which is found in large numbers in most cells, in which the biochemical process of respiration and energy production occur. Now all living organisms need energy, and this energy is in the form of ATP, isn't it? So that's the reason why the mitochondria is also called as the powerhouse of the cell. Why powerhouse of the cell? Because it deals with the energy rich compound which is ATP, also called adenosine triphosphate. Okay, are you with me, children? Show me a thumbs up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So now what is the structure of this mitochondria like? These are actually minute double-walled bags and they have inner walls. Can you see these inner walls? These inner walls of the mitochondria are thrown into folds, these folds where I'm moving the arrow. These folds are called as cristae. They are the sites where respiration occurs and it releases energy. This energy is stored in the form of ATP. Hence, mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Clear? Okay. So yes, it is the site of respiration. Energy required for various chemical activities for life is released by mitochondria, and it is released in the form of ATP molecules. ATP, adenosine triphosphate. They have their DNA and ribosomes, due to which they are able to make some of their own proteins. So, mitochondria along with ribosomes can also make a few proteins. Okay. Now again, we'll come to nucleus in short, in brief. The nucleus controls the cell, so it is the controlling center. It is the largest organelle in the cell, which contains the cell's DNA. We have already discussed about this. You see the chromatin material, right? This is the nucleolus. This is a nuclear envelope. Okay. And very close to the nucleus lies the endoplasmic reticulum. We'll be coming to that as well. So what does the nucleus do? It helps in inheriting features from the parents to the next generation in the form of DNA molecules. Okay, present in the chromosomes. Then it also controls which protein and what amount of that protein will be synthesized by the cell. It plays a major role in cell division and also a crucial part along with the environment in determining the way the cell will develop and what form it will exhibit at maturity. Right? Now, inside the nucleus, we have another cell organelle, which is called as the nucleolus. This is responsible for making ribosomes. So, nucleolus is within the nucleus. Okay. Now, what are vacuoles? Like I told you before, vacuoles are large and permanent in plant cells, whereas they are small and temporary in animal cells. Size is large and permanent. Now, what is the function of vacuole? Vacuoles are storage sacs and they have important substances like amino acids, sugars, and organic acids and proteins. In plant cells, they contain the cell sap. Single-celled organisms like amoeba have food vacuoles in which the food is consumed. In some unicellular organisms, vacuoles play important roles like removal of water, excess water, and waste from the cell. Now coming to the other important organelle, which is endoplasmic reticulum. So basically an endoplasmic reticulum is a network of membrane bound tubes. You see this here, the structure? You see how it is thrown into folds, and it is a very large structure, especially in the animal cells. It's a larger structure in animal cells. It almost continues from one part of the cell to the other. The outer part of the endoplasmic reticulum is connected to the cell membrane or the plasma membrane, and its inner end is connected with the nuclear membrane. So you can imagine right from the boundary of the cell, that is from the plasma membrane, it is connected till the nuclear membrane, and then till the next to the other end of the plasma membrane of the cell. Now the endoplasmic reticulum is of two types, right? When the ribosomes are small particles, they are again organelles, smaller organelles, like ball like structures, which are responsible for protein synthesis. Okay, so when the ribosomes are present on the surface of the endoplasmic reticulum, then it is called as rough endoplasmic reticulum, or it is also called as RER for in short form. All right, and this can be seen under a microscope. When the endoplasmic reticulum does not have any ribosome attached on its surface, then it is called as smooth endoplasmic reticulum and denoted as SER. So what does the endoplasmic reticulum do? It stretches across the cell, right from the plasma membrane till the nuclear membrane and then to the plasma membrane. So it is also a site for protein synthesis with the ribosomes. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum is for lipid synthesis. Lipid is oil. Okay, so lipid synthesis. Some of these proteins and lipid synthesized means made by RER and SER, help in the process of building the cell membrane, which is known as membrane biogenesis. So we need to prepare the structure of the cell membrane, and the cell membrane is made up of lipid. It's a lipoprotein layer, right? So endoplasmic reticulum helps in that. It serves as a channel. Now, very, very important point, it helps in the transportation of materials from the nucleoplasm to the cytoplasm. So what is this particular organelle? This endoplasmic reticulum is responsible for transportation of materials within the cell. Now, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum in the liver cells of the group of animals called vertebrates plays a crucial role in even detoxifying many poisons and drugs. So this is at cellular level. Now, Golgi apparatus, it's an organelle in the cell that is responsible for sorting and correctly shipping. So, transportation of nutrients is done, of material is done by endoplasmic reticulum, but along with that, the Golgi body does the shipping of the proteins which are produced by ER. So, endoplasmic reticulum along with ribosomes is producing the proteins. Now, who is going to transport that? The Golgi body. So the Golgi body, you can call it like, you know, the courier company. All right. And the Golgi apparatus is made up of membrane bound vesicles which are present in the form of stacks. So they are like stacks, one on top of the other. And what are these structures, stack like structures called of Golgi bodies? They are called as cisterns. Okay. So storing, packing, dispatching, that's why I called it as the courier company of the cell, isn't it? What does a courier company do? It deals with such functions, right? So storing, packing and dispatching the substances which are formed by endoplasmic reticulum is done by the Golgi apparatus. And it also forms complex sugars and lysosomes. We'll be studying what lysosomes are. Now, what are ribosomes? We kept hearing about this organelle, ribosomes. Like I already told you, these are very tiny rounded particles which are active sites for protein synthesis. They manufacture protein. Organelles that help in synthesis of proteins, and they are found scattered in the cytoplasm, and some of them, these small round structures, are either in the cytoplasm or they're also found embedded in on the walls of the endoplasmic reticulum. That's how endoplasmic reticulum is called as a rough endoplasmic reticulum if it has the ribosomes attached to its walls. Lysosomes. Now, what are lysosomes? We call them as suicidal bags. Okay, suicidal bags, because what do the lysosomes do? When the cell gets fully damaged, the lysosomes burst and the enzymes digest the cell. Okay, so the lysosome helps in cleansing of the cell, and whenever there is there is some insecurity, when there's a damage to the cell or a germ has intruded the cell, so the lysosome helps in bursting and breaking up. So it's more like a suicidal bag. Okay, so its function is more to do with protection and recycling. Now, cell wall is a structure which is present in plant cells, okay, and it is made up of cellulose. So what you need to remember is it is concerned with protection of the cell, and it is unlike the plasma membrane, it is not selectively permeable, and it is composed of a substance called as cellulose, which is a complex carbohydrate. We are familiar with this, isn't it? So yes, it is for protection, and it has pores through which fine strands of cytoplasm are able to cross the cell wall. Okay, and basically it is for protecting from the external environment. Now, plastids, very important and my favorite cell organelle, okay, because it adds color to the cells. Now, plastids are of three types. They are double layered and they have their own DNA and ribosomes. Now, there are three types of plastids in plants. which are chloroplast, leucoplast, and chromoplast. So you find plastids in plant cell only. Remember this. And what are the three different types of plastids in plant cells? We have chloroplast, leucoplast, and chromoplast. Chloro, like the word suggests, chloro means it contains chlorophyll. The pigment, green pigment chlorophyll is contained in the chloroplast. Leucoplast is white or colorless, okay, and chromoplast gives color to the cell. Chromo means color. All right, so chloroplasts are for photosynthesis, leucoplasts are colorless. They store material like starch, oils, and protein granules in the cell, and chromoplasts are imparting color to the flowers, and they are rich in carotenoid pigments and lipids. Okay, carotenoids are again related with the orange color of the cell.